Welcome to In the Cut, the show that gets you up close and personal with BN and our community.
Good afternoon, evening, or morning. Welcome to In the Cut, the show that gets you up close and personal with Black non-believers in our community. My name is Edith Gray, and I am your host for the show today. In the Cut is a production of Black Non-Believers. We're a 501c3 organization headquartered in the Atlanta area, where we connect with other Blacks and allies who are living free of religion and are otherwise shunned by friends and family. We, instead of accepting dogma, we determine truth and morality through reason and logic. And the mission of non-believers is to provide secular fellowship, nurture and support people in coming out of religion. We encourage pride in non-religious identities. What else do? We educate the people. We educate the public on the history and the current state of non-belief in the Black community. We organize events and charitable causes, regardless of or racial identity. And we are focused mainly, our content revolves around, and our work prioritizes Black non-religious voices. So with that, I want to welcome to the show the president and founder of Black Non-Believers, Mandisa Thomas. Hey!
Hey!
How you doing, girl?
Good. Welcome, everybody. I am here live with Edith today. Thank you for joining us on the show. I'm so excited for our special guest today and the topic that we are covering, because it is one that is really, really unfortunate that we deal with at times within our own community, right? You know, even as an organization, you know, we focus on issues that pertain specifically to Black folks, how we navigate atheism in our communities, which is very, very important. But also, we also, and in doing that, we tend to sometimes, deal with negativity within our own community, which is so unfortunate, because, you know, you would think that as many people, you know, should be able to understand what we deal with and what we're working with. Sadly, there are some folks who just don't seem to get it, and they don't want to get it. And there are times where we have to, you know, kind of stand up and call this behavior out for what it is. And when people do not understand the extra added challenges that we deal with as a further marginalized community, you know, it makes our jobs harder. If you think, you know, it makes our jobs that much harder. And already when we're looking at the current political climate, you know, it is just, you know, it's bad enough we're having to deal with so much from the outside. It's like we don't really want to have to deal with this from the inside either. And it's like, my goodness, you know, but it is unfortunate. And it just goes to show how these institutional factors really, really play a part in the disparities that we continue to face. And, you know, how much harder it makes our work at times. So it is just, you know, we're definitely going to dive into this a bit. And we're definitely going to get, you know, Edith's thoughts on this. Yes. Shout out to Edith, who's repping Wu-Tang. And I'm repping BN over here. So we are repping our culture always. So, do you have a few words to say, like, just before we get into the other part of our topic?
I think when we get into it, I may have something to pipe in on, but No, I'm glad to welcome Mandy's into a different location for the podcast today. You may see us doing podcasts from here a little more often. It's fun. It's very concerning when we see people in our own community speaking in ways that do not uplift us and progress us towards equity. So that is why we definitely want to discuss what we're going to talk about today. We have a couple announcements before we get started. Thai Solarin Day is a day that honors a Black non-believer.
Nigerian. So his last name is pronounced Solarin.
Solarin.
And so Dr. Solarin was a Nigerian humanist who started the Mayflower School in Nigeria back in the 60s. And so he had so many students come through his school. And so they all tend to honor him. And so shout out to the Association of Black Humanists across the pond in England who are hosting Thai Solarin Day today. And so, and then also we connected with a local Nigerian secular gentleman here.
That's right.
Who we are going to be a part of a celebration that they're doing for Dr. Solarin on August 30th. Yep. So, it's we'll post the link to Dr. Solarin for those of you who aren't familiar with him. And what this goes to show is the legacy of humanism across the African diaspora, right? In our community, yes, we are still overrepresented predominantly by white men in this community. And it's not that, of course, we give credit to the work that they have done. However, our own history and representation has been overshadowed. And it's important to understand that even in different countries, there have been noted humanists who have been honored. And I think we should be honoring them too. So, and we have been fortunate to connect with the Association of Black Humanists, Atheists in Kenya, the Humanists in Barbados. So like all of, like Black and brown folks across the globe, and, representing here in America, we have been the ones representing here in the continent of the United States, but also doing work and collaborating and connecting with globally with other with other humanists and atheists across the world. So, it is so fantastic to have this acknowledgement of Dr. Solarin. And again, we will share his information. We'll share more information on him when during the course of the show. But yes, if you aren't familiar with him, please do make yourself familiar because it is so great to learn all about the different aspects of humanism and everyone who's represented humanism within our communities. So.
Yes. I was very pleased to meet the gentleman that's living, I guess he lives a little bit out of the Atlanta area.
Yes, and, Dr. Odion, Dr. Gege Odion, yes.
Yes, he's an optometrist, has a practice here, and always great to run into and meet Black atheists and fellowship together with them. So what else we got? Things. We're going to talk about supporting the work again. We do need support to continue our missions and to continue to spread the good work that we're doing and all of the wonderful things about being a non-believer, reaching out to Black non-believers and letting them know that they have a community. And this is all that we are here for. So to do this work, we do need your support. And Mandy's, any other words to say on that?
Yes, and so once again, our channel is monetized. So please drop us a super chat, or and then also you can go to our website directly to donate. And I'm just going to give a bold ask here. We would like to try to raise about $10,000 by the end of the month. I think that's pretty reasonable, for everyone who's watching today. If you can just share that information, share our website, that really, really would help us with our mid-year work and everything that we're doing. Again, we have sponsored the Hurston Scholarship Now the deadline to apply has passed, so we will be announcing the winner of that scholarship very soon.
That's great.
Yeah, and so just to understand and just to underscore how important the work really is, because we are doing the important work with only a fraction of the support that other organizations get. And unfortunately, that is a part of the history of Black folks in general, right? We've always been able to make a way out of seemingly no way.
Right.
But that shouldn't always be the case.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
We Black community does have access to some funds, and it's a matter of priorities and focus sometimes. But yeah, we would appreciate any support that you all can provide for us. So
yes, absolutely.
So what else? Oh, Cynthia McDonald.
Oh, yeah, she's not going to be with us today.
But I saw her up in the chat.
Yeah, shout out to Cynthia, who is in the chat with us,
yes,
representing.
Ma'am.
Thank you for showing up here once again, being that representative for us. We appreciate you and appreciate, again, everyone who is tuned in today.
Ooh, we got my Tiger to you.
Mr. Tiger who's from Sacramento. Okay, yeah. So we're going to be giving you some information about, our special guest today as well. So stay tuned for that. And so I guess right now we can jump into the show.
Yes.
So I'm going to scoot over here a little bit and let Edith take over.
It is now our pleasure to welcome back to In the Cut, Bakari Chavanu. Bakari is a web designer, media content creator, and he's the co-founder of Black Humanists and Nonbelievers in Sacramento, California. He appeared on our show in 2022 to introduce the group, and along with his fellow members. So Bakari recently penned an article that is featured on the Friendly Atheist website. And it is on the topic that we will be discussing today. It is about an article that came out in Free Inquiry magazine. But we would just want to welcome him back to the stage today. Hello, Bakari.
How you doing? Thank you so much for inviting me back on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Welcome. It's good to have you back. It's always good to see you.
Yeah.
So please tell our viewers. Okay, great. And we want you to, if you could, tell our viewers about your upbringing, and for those who missed you back in 2022, about your upbringing and how you came to be a non-believer.
Yeah, did I lose you there?
Hello.
Yes.
You have the floor. You have the floor.
Okay.
Did you hear
it? Yeah. So yeah, there's a little bit of a lag between us. So that's the reason why I may have missed it. Yeah. So my name is Bakari, and I've been in Sacramento for like decades. I'm in my 60s now, and so they have a lot of long life. But I did grow up in Oklahoma City and in the Midwest, and I came out to California probably, what was it, the early 90s or something like that. No, early 80s. That's what it was. It's been so long. But anyway, so I did, like most people, I grew up in the church. Mom, father took us to church all the time, particularly my mom. And so I grew up just kind of like, in the church. I dated a girl that was a really great singer. And so, that kept me into the church a lot more as well. But I started to, even in high school, I started to question, people, the church would be just jumping up and down and, doing all these things. And I just kind of like, where's this coming from? Right. And so, but I like the idea about Jesus, it's like, Jesus is on the side of the poor, he's the advocate of the poor. So I didn't really have any fear of God. It was more like, I like the idea of what Jesus represented. So, but in high school at the same time, I got suspended from school for like a week or something for something. I don't know what it was, but anyway, I was kind of into the religion a lot, and so I started reading the Bible. I read one of those kind of like modern day, modern English editions. Makes it really easy to read. So I started reading it almost like from cover to cover, man. I'm just, and I'm like, wow, this doesn't really make sense. And it felt like a lot of mythological stories. And back then I did not know, what atheism was. I had never even heard of the word. And it was no one that I really could talk to about my doubts. I mean, because it was everybody that I knew in my family, everyone, they were religious, right? And so I didn't even think about like, how do you question this stuff and what questions to even ask. But something about reading that just made me feel like something's not right here. And so by the time that I went off to college, I started reading James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni, and James Baldwin led me to a lot of other things in terms of just, about religion, because James Baldwin was of an atheist as well. I'm not sure if he was a complete atheist, but I know that he struggled in the church as a young preacher. But it was reading him and then going on to read other people that I, started finding, atheists and what they wrote. And so I started questioning and writing about it, but it took me years. I used to journal about my doubts and my questions, but I would keep reading. And, eventually when, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 decades later, I just read myself out of religion. I read as much as I could. I was asked, I contemplated a lot of questions about religion, and I just could not make it all make sense to me. It just didn't make sense. It didn't seem logical, right? And I heard a couple other podcasts back in the day. I think, who was the guy's name? I forget his name. He was a brother, and he had a popular podcast, and the Infidel Guy show. That show right there, finding his show back then, that was a long time ago. And I think he was one of the first ones to have a show. He had the show, and he would interview a lot of people. He would do like kind of a Platonic type of interview with folks, Socratic interview. And he had even had people like Richard Dawkins on there and Sam Harris before they were really even famous. And so listening to his show was really helpful. And then I started seeking out groups locally to connect with other people. And so back then I didn't really know too many Black atheists, and I kind of thought we needed to have a group. And so in 10 years ago, this is our 10th anniversary of BlackNonbelievers in Sacramento. And so we started the group about 10 years ago. And so that was it, and actually after we came up with our name, because we went back and forth on the name, we found out about BlackNonbelievers about a month after that. So we were like, oh man. So, but it's been an interesting journey in that regard.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes. And what I like is what you said, that you read your way out of religion. And mm-hmm. I think that's great, because one thing that we do know about many of the religions, especially Christianity, there are many people in the faith who really only read the one book. They read it over and over and sideways and this a ways, and they still, some of them never, even though we know that sometimes people who read it all the way through do come out of religion, there are many who just stick with one book, and I think that's very limiting. So yeah, I think that's great that you read your way out of it. And I can definitely relate. When I came out of religion and stopped believing in God, I was in the Northeast in a mostly white area, and so yeah, that finding community is very important. So yeah, that's great. So what other questions do we have for him, Mandisa?
So let's talk about the article that you read, and then the one that you ended up writing. Okay. What was the article? What was the source? And what was so infuriating about it? Let's tell the viewers exactly what really got you riled up. And the article that Bakari wrote has been posted in the chat. But yeah, give us some background on this whole issue of, color blindness in our community.
Yeah, so a couple of weekends ago, I went to the bookstore, and so I picked up a copy of this magazine called Critical on Free Inquiry. Don't buy the magazine, but anyway, I picked up this thing, and so normally, I get a magazine, and sometimes I might not read it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks or whatever. But I just, I had it in there. But I started reading the editorial here, and it was titled "Secular Humanism in the Colorblind Society." And then on the front cover, I'm not sure if you can see this, but it says, you probably can't see it, but it says how to end racism. So that's what caught my attention. And because this is a secular humanist magazine, is the one that pushes secular humanism, I'm like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. I really want to read this. And so I picked it up and started reading it. And the more I read it, I began to just be feeling just hurt and insulted because my group and myself included, are humanists. And that's really, humanism is really important for us because we decided to put humanism in our name and our group name, because when you go to our people and you can talk about what you don't believe, but they're going to know is, what do you believe? So we're non-believers, we're not religious, but we believe in human beings. We believe in the humanity of human beings, and also the planet as well, right? That we have to take care of the planet. And so humanism is very important to us. And so reading this, she starts off talking about that we need a colorblind society, but that it is Black identity politics, and it's also the radical left that is preventing a colorblind society. And she starts off kind of like talking about this is her first paragraph. She says, who said the words Black supremacy would be equally evil as white supremacy? No doubt Tucker Carlson or Ann Coulter. No, it was Dr. Martin Luther King. So she starts off with kind of the straw man about Black supremacy that really never existed, right? It was never really a dominant theme in the Black liberation movement in the 60s at all. But this is the way she starts out. And then she wants to try to frame that by saying that we cannot have a colorblind society. Black people and the Black left want to focus in on Black supremacy, which I haven't heard that in a long time. And so she framed it that way. And then that is our focus on race and racism that is a problem for building a colorblind society. Well, first off, that just floored me because, this is a secular humanist magazine, and I kind of felt like that they would kind of get it. I mean, I had not heard about the concept of colorblind society in a long time, since the 90s. And so I thought we had pretty much gotten past that, right? And I was just really infuriated with this article. I sent it to some people in my group, let them check it out. Then I just kind of posted like a little thing on Facebook in my response to it, like maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. I give him my response, and then from there, Mandisa read it, and thank you for connecting, Mandisa. She read it and connected, the article to the Friendly Atheist, Herman, I think his name, right? And Hemmett, there you go. Thank you so much. I met him once in Sacramento. But yeah, Hemmett. And so Hemmett asked to write an extended article on it, and I appreciate him asking that. I had not written an article like that in a long, long time, so I really appreciate his help in doing that editing and revising and doing other things. But yeah, we try to go point by point in her article about the things that she raised in this so-called colorblind aspiration, and she gets most of her talking points from this book called the The End of Race Politics by Coleman Hughes, who is a brother, so-called brother, that talks about identity politics and things of that sort. I have not read the book. I refuse to read the book at this point. But it's just hurtful because, I know that, Mendici, you guys are familiar with the American Humanist or the Humanist magazine that takes a different take in trying to cross and reach out and talk about social justice in their magazine. And they started doing this recently. I mean, they haven't been doing this traditionally forever, but they've recently been doing it since at least 2015. And so it's a big difference between what they're trying to do in their approach and trying to build social justice, build bridges. But this magazine, that's not building bridges. Is when you write an article that criticizes something that doesn't really exist. Black supremacy is not a thing, right? And it's not, even if it were, that's still not a thing. And colorblind society, we don't need colorblind society. What I write in the article, we need intersectionality, we need social justice. And that's what we as humanists bring to the humanist movement is social justice. And I did a couple of workshops and an article about that as well quite a while ago.
Yeah. Thank you for laying the groundwork here and explaining about the article. And we've got, like Mandisa said, we've got the Friendly Atheist responses to that. So I don't know if we want to go point by point, but I just wanted to interject and say, building a colorblind society. You probably mentioned this in your article. Building a colorblind society. Here are white people again talking about building societies. Well, so hundreds of years ago, they built a society that was based on color. That was the whole game. And now instead of equity, they want equality. They don't want to see any color now. So that right there is something that, is problematic. And I will say, it's interesting to me, and I don't want to paint all, people with a broad brush here, but it just is interesting to me, people who like this idea of colorblindness. She seemed to just kind of pick a random Black guy that said things that allowed her to stay in her comfort zone and maintain the power structure. And so we know that there are Black people who like to continue to make white people feel comfortable. And so that's what I'm seeing here so far. But
and so let me just say that, I appreciate you tagging us on Facebook in this, Bakari, and when you sent me, I because I'm on a first name basis with Robin Blumler, who was the editor and also the CEO of the Center for Inquiry, who produces the Free Inquiry magazine. I asked her for the text of it, and she responded and she sent it to me. And so I read the version that you gave me, and I also read what she wrote. And I responded to her with how I share your disappointment and your disagreement and your dismay about the article, because there were so many things that she could have drawn from. And said, Tony Penn wrote a book called When Colorblindness Isn't the Answer, Humanism and the Challenge of Race. These are things that we have all been bringing up since we have been active in this community, and there are organizations that are getting it right. You mentioned the American Humanists Association. Even I will say that American Atheist has stepped up their efforts when it comes to their programming and understanding that there is intersectionality within our community, that there are other issues simply beyond state church separation, that and it is because of how church has been so interwoven into politics, that communities of color and other marginalized communities continue to be further disfranchised. And so for them to ignore that, is just, it's a recipe for disaster. And so we have all been bringing this up. And so I think so there are some folks who don't really want to understand how racism, when they think of racism, they think of it as just simply being white people, calling us the N-word, and deliberately pushing being physically violent. That's not how it works anymore. It is seeped to our psyche so much that people don't even realize when they are perpetuating it.
Right.
So it's like, you know, in my response to her, you know, that is what I was trying to convey. And it's just like, wow, you know, and like you, like when I saw it too, I was like, wow, are we really taking this step back? It's like, what? And then considering everything that we're dealing with in the political climate now, like, why would you write something like this? And pointing out that, yes, there is a Black vice president, or there are prominent Black people in office. It doesn't mean that our issues have gone away. It doesn't mean that we aren't still facing these things. And to see that, I was just like, oh my goodness.
Right. That seemed like that article had been written in the 90s.
Yeah,
maybe?
For sure.
Right. In 2020.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what threw me, because I remember, you know, working in corporate America in the 90s, and usually the only Black person in the room there, and I get all kinds of crazy questions. And what was it? Something happened, and they were like, something happened. Maybe it was the OJ got off. I think that's what it was. And they were like, oh, so we're good now, right? No.
Right. No.
But no, we're not done. But this there was something.
I also like, I'm sorry, why you think of that, Edith?
Okay.
I also like what you said, Bakari, about how the other side certainly isn't colorblind.
Right. That's right.
It was very, very, you know, it was like you said, you know, with this Project 2025 that, you know, that is being proposed as, you know, if a certain person is elected into office, I mean, it is a recipe for, you know, people will ultimately die as a result. If this is implemented, and guess who will be the most impacted? It will definitely be women. It will be people of color, particularly Black folks. You know, it doesn't matter how many prominent Black folks you see in the public eye now. The majority there will be a lot of folks who will suffer. And certainly they definitely see, even if they don't say it, they are certainly taking it into consideration. And it is because of that progress that they are trying to, you know, that they are trying to implement these things. You know, and it's like, wait a minute, because they certainly are talking about the woke left and all of these buzzwords that rouse up their base. And so when we see that from folks who are that are on our same side, it's like, wait a minute. It's like, how do we get the whole concept of God right, and also the understanding of state-church separation right, but not understand the economic impact that it has, definitely the perception impact, you know, and all of these things, like you said, they are not colorblind here. Right. They know exactly what they're doing here.
Yeah. There's a good comment here from Ola Bolagun. I would be careful. She says, or they say, I would be careful of suggesting this was written innocently. This sounds typical of the far right orchestrated attacks used to rally opposition and make us question ourselves.
Oh no, I don't think. And it's unfortunate, because it's like, how can we be a community that prides ourselves on our intellectual capability, on our intelligence, and and write something so patently false and so insensitive. And I saw one of the names that I mentioned was Stokely Carmichael. Stokely Carmichael was a humanist, and this was referenced in Chris Cameron's book, Black Thinkers. And so it was just so, I mean, there were so many things that she could have done to really well research this article and not come up with so many talking points that were very dismissive, offensive, and all these things. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
I'm trying to I'm trying to understand, as I'm sure you did as well, as you're reading this article, going, what was she thinking, or what was going through her mind, aside from being oblivious to the racial, to white supremacy that we are all swimming in. What would have been her reason? So now I'm just imagining, and maybe I shouldn't bring a straw man to this, but maybe it signals a kind of wariness, a tiredness that supposed allies have. They must feel when they're only engaging in performative behaviors. That's got to get tiring after a while. And so she threw up her hands and said, "Oh, here's a black guy that says how I feel. So yeah, I'm tired of performing." You know,
right?
I don't know.
If I can say, you know, to me, one of the things about writing, when you write, all kinds of stuff start coming to your head, you know, because you're processing what you read, you know, as you write. And really the notion of colorblind society is about erasure. It is to try to erase our culture, our heritage, and try to, you know, there's always this goal that everybody needs to melt in to the American idea. But on the other hand, the lies about America are like front and center now. I mean, the empire cannot. All right, the empire is having problems here, and we see it from domestically as well as internationally. What's happening, our brothers and sisters in Palestine, the empire is in trouble, and so this is the reason why you have 45 Trump coming in. This is the reason why you have even the problems inside the Democratic Party. You have these problems because the empire, the lies are exposed, and they cannot be hidden. And so they use these kind of words like color blindness, which again, I heard, I don't know, the 90s. I mean, literally, I thought that we nipped that in the bud. But it's to say that everybody needs to melt in and be like American, which means be white American to be acceptable to what we want you to be, you know, what white want you to be. And this is not going to happen. I don't know if Robin is listening to this show, and if she does listen to it later, I need her to understand that people, marginalized folks, Black folks, other people of color, women, genders, LGBTQ folks, we're not going to back down and change. You're not going to do this. We're not going to forget what happened. And it doesn't mean that means that we can't cross and connect with each other, because there are some people white folks that I can cross with and connect with pretty easily.
Sure.
But we're not, but even still, we're not going to forget this. We're not going to let it go. And we're also going to looking for redress because we deserve that. And so this notion of color blindness is to try to make us not Black, you know, to say, you know, we're past that, and then forget about, in other words, we passed racism. They tried that during Obama. Remember when Obama came in power, right? Right. It was the post-racial society, and that just flew back in their face because their racism and their vitriol just came spewing out. You know, this man got, you know, got assaults every day. You know, death threats every day, he and his family, and so they got to understand we're not backing down. It's not going to happen. So be clear about that. And then two is really, if you're going to call yourself a secular humanist, if you're going to call yourself a humanist, please understand that involves intersectionality. That involves, you know, being empathetic toward other people. That involves building bridges. And this is what I talk about in the article. And just because a few Black people have made it or successful, these people usually are working on behalf of white establishment. U.S. hegemony. They're working on behalf of that. They're not working on behalf of what we need. So we still, as a people, have to, you know, protect ourselves. And this is what the groups you talked about, Nation of Islam, and I think it was, the Black Panthers. They didn't talk about
the Black Panther Party. Yeah,
Black Panther Party, right? They didn't talk about, the Nation of Islam may have talked about Black supremacy to a certain extent, but basically they talked about self-determination and defending ourselves and cultural pride and racial pride. this is what anybody it doesn't know anything about that history. This is what they talked about, and I encourage you to read for yourself. It is so important. I know right now that given the times we live in, it's very hard to sit down and read a book when you get so much media stuff coming at you. But please read as much as you can. That's what has saved me, not religion, but just being able to read and have knowledge has saved me. And so, so I just need Robin to understand that we're not backing down. We're not changing our mind of this. And so writing this is not helping at all. I'm not sure if you're frozen. Oh, there you go.
Okay, it's back. All right.
I'm not hearing you guys. I'm not sure if you're frozen.
Okay, we're coming.
Okay.
Our microphone. Okay. All right. There we go.
All right. I hear you.
All right. Can you hear us now? Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I know we were going to talk about like for those who are not clear on reparations and what that entails. And I know a shout out to Cynthia once again, because I know that is a very, very passionate area of social justice for her and many of us in our communities. Can you go a bit into like the reparations, what it entails? And I know we talked about this before, but what is it about reparations that really needs to be hammered home here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I haven't had a chance to read up on this enough, but recently, Black farmers, I'm not sure how many, but quite a few, have won a lawsuit against the government. It was a $2 billion lawsuit, and they're asking for another $5 billion. But they won a $2 billion lawsuit because of land being taken away from Black farmers over long decades. I mean, decades, almost centuries, right? And so what you see is that is a redress, because wealth is largely based upon land. And when you have land, you pass it down from generation to generation and build wealth, right? And so when our wealth and our labor has been taken away like that, right? That means we cannot pass it down and we cannot build it. So that's the reason why there's this huge wealth gap between Black folks and white folks in this country, because of that, and as well as because of the class divide, racialized capitalism and things of that sort as well. But our labor to build this country, right, was gotten for free. And so that means that we were not able to pass down wealth at all, right? And that's the reason why we're suffering even to this day economically, despite the fact that you have some, multi-millionaire rappers or Black CEOs or what have you, or people that, Oprah Winfrey is like $1 billion or what have you. That doesn't mean that the vast majority of our people are suffering, and there's a huge wealth gap between Black folks and white folks in this country. And that reparations is about addressing that, what was taken from us and what we were not given. And so one of the things is really important, because Coleman Hughes, the guy I referenced in a few minutes ago, is that he talks about he's against reparations. And one of the things he said he did an interview with Lamont Hill, and he talked about he doesn't think that money should be taken from one group and given to another. Well, already he doesn't know what he's talking about. That is not how reparations is going to happen. There's not going to be any tax dollars paying for reparations. This is government public money. And the government, when it decides to do this in the plan and goes through the plan to do it, it will, really just punch its digits and start making the checks out. And so, I mean, it's literally, I don't want to say that it's that simple, but I'm saying it's not somebody being taxed to pay for something else. That's not how it happens. That's not how government spending works. It's the same thing with the farmers. The farmers, when they get their money, when they apply that money that they're owed because land was taken from them, literally, right? It will not be tax money. It will be the government has money. It's the one that creates currency. It's the one that it creates legal tender in this country. And so it can say, hey, we're going to pay this $2 billion to Black farmers because they're owed to it. So that's how that happens. So just be clear, this is not coming from taxes. And then two is, I don't think that we're going to close the wealth gap unless we have that redress. And I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but I just think that the gap is so large and the racism is so thick. The systemic racism, particularly, not just when people use the N-word and do all that. That's one kind of racism. But I'm talking about the systemic racism, which is much deeper, and you have to kind of study that to understand it. That's another reason why they want to get past this race thing, because they really don't want us to track what's happening to people along racial lines. See, when you don't track it, what happens is
they're not.
They don't. It's like you can't say that there's racism if you don't track it. So that's what systemic racism is. And there's a book called Meta Racism by Tricia Rose that people should check out. It's called Meta Racism by Tricia Rose, and she really unpacks how systemic racism worked, say in the cases of Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, in other cases, right? She really goes back in to say, how does, them being shot by cops, how did systemic racism play into that, right? How did it work into that? So, but that's what reparations is about, is redress and closing the wealth gap and giving us the resources that we need so that we can pass that wealth down to our children and their children, etc. And then two is, as secular humanists, we also need social justice. So it's not just about having the paycheck, the check, but it's also about social justice and changing the infrastructure of this country, the economic and political infrastructure, so that it's more equitable, so that people can get the things that they need, right? Across the board, right? So it's not just about getting the money, but it's also doing that work. And we want to invite you into that work. If you're not a part of it, is getting into that work, because it's very, very important.
Right. And I think what people need to understand about the history of disfranchisement of Black folks in this country, it definitely did start with making helping to make this country what it is as an economic power based off of slave labor, but also a lot of companies who got rich off of slave labor, and they worked in tandem with each other. So there's a comment in there about land, and it's not necessarily about land as well. It's also, it is about us working this land and helping, and these folks getting rich off of the backs of our ancestors who were brutalized. Sure. And also, when slavery ended and during Reconstruction, I talk about this all the time. There was a deliberate effort, of course, to keep Black folks from voting. There was a time when there were Black representatives in Congress. There were Black folks who had their own businesses. There were Black folks who were they were doing for themselves. And guess what happened? Due to riots, due to insurrections, properties were destroyed, lives were lost, and lives were taken, and there was property seized unlawfully by other folks. So reparations comes, it should be coming in many forms, because there were Black folks who lost so much, of their own resources and then the things that they built due to this racist structure. So there really does need to be an entire education, and also, like you said, a reformation and a redress of all of it, because there were laws, again, that effectively kept Black folks from living in certain areas, getting certain jobs. Yes, there was redlining, preventing them from preventing them from going to certain schools, getting certain jobs and everything. So I think it is very, very important for all of us to understand that, the magnitude of what is needed as far as reparations is concerned. So, that's a whole institution in itself. And I would support everyone getting educated and getting involved in it.
If I could point one more thing out, as well, we don't even have to go back as far as slavery, even though we should, and we will. But at the same time, even in the 1950s, we need reparations for lack of education. We were denied education. Even to this day, many people in some communities are denied education, and that's a form of redress. We need redress for that as well. So we need reparations for even the education that we didn't get for years. Do we have to fight in order to get it, right? Those things have an impact. You see what I'm saying? Also, the injustice being done to us in the criminal justice system, the injustice being done to us, that all these things are systemic. These things are long range, right? Ever since they have been, we've been fighting ever since they had the school desegregation, law happen, and they started trying to do integration. White folks have been, fighting to tear that down ever since, from day one. And that's impacted our ability to get access to good education. And so there's reparations in that area as well. We're losing because we don't have access. And people need to understand how real that is. Look at the economics of it. Just check out the economics, do the numbers. In California, they had a reparations committee that did research. And it also, if you look up their research, it talks about the amount of money and wealth that we have lost over the years, almost even up to this day. We lost money in housing, Medicare, education. We lost wealth in those areas because of discrimination and racism.
Absolutely. You want to give a shout out, Edith?
Yeah, we've got a super chat member in the chat. Errol Walker, thank you for joining us today. And yes, please do watch the whole episode from the beginning. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this leads us to our last question, because I know we were going kind of long here. What is it that we can do now? What is it that we should be doing now as a non-religious community, as a Black non-religious demographic? What is it that we can start doing at this point?
Well, Mandisa, when I tagged you about the post that I wrote in Facebook, you said, it's important that we also come together and work with each other, right? And you're so correct. That's why we have these organizations, is that so people can become a part of this. I was around Kwame Ture, who was spoken to Stokely Carmichael, and the thing that Kwame Ture talked about was organize, right? He talked about the fact that this is how we get things done, is by being in organization. If you don't like an organization if you can't find an organization that you don't like, if you can't find that you like, create one of your own. Because when we create organizations, we have power around our actions, right? And so my suggestion is to get involved with Black non-believers, get involved with other Black atheist groups and secular groups, get involved with activist groups. Same thing about this. I want to get a little bit more political. Right now, we have this big debate about, should we be voting for Kamala? Should we be voting for her? To me, if you have to decide if you want that or not. But if you just say, I'm not going to vote because I'm just kind of like, I can't do it, then that's not a good strategy. You have to either decide, either you're going to vote for a third party or you're going to help build a third party, but not voting at all is not going to change things. It's not going to win us anything at that point. But I understand there's problems with the Democratic Party, and particularly with what the current president is doing with supporting genocide in Palestine. And I get it. So I'm voting third party. I'm voting for Cornel West, but that's also because I'm in California too. So I mean, that's another thing. But the thing of it is if you're not going to vote, you have got to be a part of something that's going to build change, and not voting, sitting on the couch is not going to do that. So I'm not going to tell you how you should vote. That's not a thing. I definitely don't vote for Trump, but that's my suggestion.
Right. Well, thank you for all of the interesting comments and the sharing your views on the article. And yeah, I think definitely voting is something that we should all do. And I know that, I'm in touch with some young folks who don't feel like it is making any difference in their lives. So, but bringing up some good points, and I do hope that our young people will be voting. So yeah. Thank you for coming on the show today. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you so much too. Thank you so much. And I really want to have our two groups work together. I talked to my group and said, we need to try to do some things together, some online stuff, and maybe we can do physically. We can get together at some point. But so I appreciate you all, and thank you so much for inviting me on here today. It really had a lot. It's really great.
Good. I'm so glad. Yes, it's always a pleasure to have you, Bakari. And I hope to see you at another California Free Thought Day. I know y'all always represent out there. And, shout out to the folks there. They are very, very supportive of the issues that we face, and which is fantastic. So
if you're in Sacramento, definitely check with us in Free Thought Day in October. Go on our meetup page. And you can get more information there, and we'll have a table out there. You've been there a couple of times, and it's great to always see you there. So, but definitely, if you're in Sacramento, come check it out.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you once again, Bakari. We'll see you again soon.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Yay, and so now we have come to the announcements portion of the show. Edith, you can take it away.
All right. So we have some events coming up that we want to share with the group. Tomorrow, August 18th, Mandisa is going to be speaking with Georgia Mountains Unitarian Universalist Church. She'll be there at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is in Dahlonega, Georgia. And if you can't attend in person, you can watch online. It will be through the Meetup platform. So you can find the link coming in the chat very soon. So
they're also in the show notes in case you missed them. So we will be sharing them in the chat. But yes, they are absolutely in the show notes. But yes, please continue, Edith.
Yeah. So also what we have in Metro Detroit is the Jazz Vibes and Conversation. That sounds like fun. So it's going to be at 8 p.m. I don't think that's Eastern Standard Time if it's in Detroit.
It is. Yeah, Detroit is Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, sorry, my phone is going crazy. So, and then also in August, actually August 29th through September 2nd, BN, Black Nonbelievers, is going to be at DragonCon. So come and check us out on the second floor of the Hilton Atlanta Hotel downtown near the Skeptrack area. We will be taking, we will be tabling, from approximately 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. each day. And we have a link so that you can go visit dragoncon.org and find out how you can participate. August 30th, Black Humanist Studies Association inaugural conference. This is going to be featuring Sabrina Dent, Candace Gorham, Mandisa Thomas, and more. It's going to be hosted by Chris Cameron. And where will it be?
And Tony Penn. It's going to be virtual.
Tony Penn. It's going to be virtual. So thank you. And we are excited about all the upcoming events. So we don't have anything yet for September, I don't think, but we'll something will jump on the calendar for sure. But between that time and November, we're going to have Black Nonbelievers CCon is back for 2024. That's going to be November 29th through December 5th. Join us on the Royal Caribbean Independence of the Seas. It's going to stop in Labadee, Haiti. We're going to be in Falmouth, Jamaica, near Montego Bay. Featured speakers will include Chris Cameron, Candace Gorham, Dragnock Mims, Christy Puckett, Teddy Reeves, and more. And prices start at just $600 per person. That's a double occupancy cabin. That's going to include your cabin fare, your taxes, your port fees, multiple dining options. This is the great thing about cruises. You don't have to do dishes. The food is just there. So you really get to enjoy just being away. So we're going to be obviously including the convention registration in that fee. Just try to make sure that you can go to the website and join us for this cruise. I think it's going to be great. And we are also seeking board members still for Black Nonbelievers. So if you're enthusiastic, you're dedicated, and you like to have fun while you work, we hope that you will apply at bnboardmember.com. The Godless Gospel Music Project is still looking for singers. Particularly, we need tenors. So this is a paid opportunity. And so we hope that you'll submit your audition today at godlessgospel.org. And as always, we will keep you posted on social media and on upcoming shows. So we hope that you will check out We Are My Dream at Etsy shop and purchase your favorite crochet items. Custom pieces are available. That's going to be on Etsy.com. We Are My Dream shop. So finally, if you are looking for a great gift to give at any time of the year, pick up a copy of Name Dropping. It is created by one of our previous In the Cut guests and one of our new board members, Deanna Williams and Jesus Reyna. So Name Dropping is one of those frustratingly fun movie trivia games.
It is fantastic.
And
it really,
so
really
played,
is. Yes,
played.
it is.
Yeah, so click on the link in the chat to purchase that today. And that brings us to the close of the show. I really want to thank our guests today and everyone that joined and all of our Super Chat members. It's been a really great show today, and just,
very important topic, very, things that we are working on and not just discussing, but working on, in collaboration and in tandem with each other. So I think it's really, really important, but yay.
So that wraps up the episode, and we hope you enjoyed the show. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow at Black Nonbelievers. Instagram, we are at BNonbelievers Inc. And on X, which is formerly Twitter, at BNonbelievers. The B and the N are capitalized there. And we want you to subscribe to us on YouTube. We are now monetized. Our channel is monetized, and we thank everyone for tuning in and supporting us. And you can find your local BN affiliates in your city on Meetup, and you can join them. And remember, we're looking for new organizers, so be sure to complete the volunteer form on our website. And then we would also ask that you check out the tax-deductible donation website. That's at blacknonbelievers.org/donate.
That is on our website. Please, 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 even a few dollars helps. It goes a long way. So thank you all very much.
And it is tax deductible.
Please do donate to us. Yes.
So
we need your money.
And
so that we can do our work. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And so if you want to represent BN more, you can get your swag. We've got the BN t-shirt in many colors. We also are also selling a t-shirt that has a saying that I coined when I went on Tiffany Cross's show about Jesus being thrown under the bus. So, you can find these items on our online store. You can go to blacknonbelievers.org /store-2 and pick up some swag there. We have mugs, shot glasses, and of course t-shirts and other apparel, I think. So,
yeah.
So yeah, well, we want to thank you again for joining us, and take care.
And finally, I'd like to thank everyone who supported my fundraising campaign to help get my vehicle fixed. That was a hard ask for me, but it is how I do my being work driving. I will be taking my son to school. My son Isaiah is going to college. And it's also how I just work in general. And so I appreciate everyone who supported that campaign. But at this point, I just absolutely love, and as my 40th birthday is approaching very soon in September, I really would like to ask that y'all help us accomplish our goal, our fundraising goal for the end of the summer. It really would mean so much to us as we continue to do our work. So thank you all once again. Thank you to Edith for hosting. We'll be seeing us more again. We don't live far from each other too, so that helps.
Right.
So take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.